Welcome one and all to what is surely going to be a crazy day in the news. Are we watching rights being taken away, rights that people have had in this country for more than half a century? Oh, we might be. And we're gonna be talking about it amongst other things. Through the course of this next 90 minutes or so, we've got a candidate who's going to be running. Seems like it might be good. We'll be talking about that. Tucker Carlson has a new bestie. That's great. I love friendship. You know who else loves friendship? One of my friends, actually. Viviana Vigil now joins us. Viviana, how's it going?
Hi, John. I'm one of the people whose rights are being taken away. Nice to see you.
Exactly. I think, you know what? I think we should at least briefly comment on generational rights being stripped away. Let's take note of it as it happens. How about that?
I've noticed, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about that. That's gonna be fun. But it's been a little bit since we had you on. How was your Thanksgiving break?
It has been awesome. I had a great time with my family. We put up our Christmas tree. I got a big one this year. Oh yeah. And yeah. I begged my boyfriend if we could get a real one this year. And he said, just this year. He's not mean, but he'll probably give in next year too. But I mean, it makes sense. You get the reusable ones, okay. But they smell so good.
I don't know, if you have a big enough fridge, the real ones are reusable too.
That's not how it works, John.
So we haven't done the tree yet, my wife and I, but I was in Nordstrom Rack and I saw this silver reindeer. So I got it. And when I put it in my house, it made me weirdly satisfied. So
have the dogs reacted to it?
I don't, not that I have seen what they do while I'm not there. I don't care as long as they don't do any permanent damage to it. Although one of its antlers was hanging. Anyway, I haven't done the tree yet. I am so excited. I know that I'm a godless atheist and hail Satan and all that, but I love decorating a tree. I can't wait to hang lights. I love Christmas decorations.
Well, as you know, John, the decorations are pagan roots, so you're right on track. That tree is a pagan celebration, so enjoy.
That's also true. That's also true. I do hang a lot of little replicas of baby Jesus on it though. But anyway, no, I love the whole Christmas thing, so I'm looking forward to that. I want to do that soon because there's nothing I hate more than only having a little period of the tree. My wife and I, so last Christmas we lived in one room. So our tree was this big, and she wanted to get rid of it really soon after Christmas, and I would have left it for a month probably.
Well, you got to leave it till January 6th. That is the Epiphany. If you celebrate any sort of Catholic holidays, that is when the three kings came to visit baby Jesus in the manger, and they brought him gifts, and so that's when you're technically in the Mexican religion. I mean, Mexican culture and Catholic religion. That's when you do it. I'm not Catholic. I'm not any religion. But as a progressive, I really enjoy Jesus. I think he was a cool dude.
That's cool, yeah. So January 6th, you throw out your tree, you throw out democracy.
That's right.
Huge traditions that we have. 3 kings showed up, 300 douchebag fascists showed up. Depends on where you're at.
They got it mixed up. You're supposed to bring gifts, not spear Mike Pence with the flagpole. But to each his own.
Yeah, some of them brought flags, some brought tasers, some brought Molotov cocktails. So, just patriot tourist stuff. Anyway, I'm a little bit salty. So here's what's gonna happen. In just a second, we're gonna launch into our first story, but we've got a lot that we're gonna be talking about. In the closing half hour of the show, we got some really bad cops, including one video. Oh, it's just gonna be hard. We're gonna give you all sorts of warnings beforehand, but some of these videos are a little bit hard to watch. And then maybe, just maybe, we'll get to talk about the climate potatoes. So stay tuned for that. Mash them up, put them in a stew, whatever you want. Anyway, so first of all though, if you could hit the like button, share the stream, that would be great. During our next break, I'm gonna be giving you something else you can possibly share. But anyway, we're gonna launch in now into this story. So, pretty big news. The SCOTUS right now is considering this Mississippi anti-abortion law that they seem, based on a lot of different evidence, and a 50+ year plot from the right wing, to be willing to both uphold and possibly go further than in restricting women's reproductive rights, possibly up to the point of just eliminating Roe v. Wade. We got this super conservative majority on the Supreme Court, and they hate judicial activism, so why not strip away rights that have existed for longer than most of the people watching this program right now? So that's exciting. The Mississippi law bans abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. And based on some of what we're hearing right now, it is looking more and more like they're just gonna do what they wanna do. They're conservative ideologues and they wanna get rid of abortion, so they're probably gonna do that. We'll give you the evidence in a bit, but I wanted to give you a chance, Viviana, to weigh in. This is pretty momentous. It's not surprising, we've been seeing this coming.
We have been seeing it coming, and it is actually quite frightening, John, because this is about rights to women's bodies. That's all this is about. And I know, Kavanaugh said it best. You have to pick. You can't pick the woman and the baby. You got to pick, and that is a bit of the way it is. And as a woman, it's a very difficult. I'm very pro-choice. I would never want to make this choice for anybody else. And it is not something that I think anybody is like, I can't wait to have an abortion. They may need one, they may need to go get it, and they're looking forward to making sure it's completed, but it's not a process that anybody wants to do. So what really bothers me is the hypocrisy of this party, because if you have to pick, then see it through. Then take care of those kids. Then let's do education. Let's provide and give access and education to everybody out there so that we can prevent pregnancy, so that we can make sure that these unwanted pregnancies don't happen. You're not gonna get rid of abortion. I don't care what the Supreme Court says. It's never gonna stop. So let's do it legally, like we've been doing it, and safely. Because if you don't, it is a slippery slope into a very dangerous situation for women around the country. And it is already happening, and particularly women in a lower socioeconomic status who don't have the means to fly to Denver to go get an abortion or to drive out of state, or a woman who is being abused by her husband and has been impregnated for the 5th, 6th, 7th time to keep her in that abusive relationship, and she has no outlets. I mean, it is absolutely disgusting. And at 15 weeks, it hurts me, because personally, John, and like I said, I am pro-choice, but my choice is I wouldn't have an abortion. I do not ever judge any woman for having to make the choice that's best for her and her future. And sometimes the future of her children who are alive and they're with her, and she's having to support on her own. So this is such a difficult thing, and we could really solve it. We had it already figured out. Okay, Roe versus Wade was a really great way to get started. We protect women's rights to choose, and then we come in with the other side. All right, you guys are anti-abortion. Let's prevent it. Let's limit abortions by educating people. Let's limit abortions by providing contraceptive. But no, they're against that too. Oh, don't talk to kids about sex. Don't give them condoms. Don't give them birth control. But yet you want to come down so hard. I mean, what Texas is doing is like Handmaid's Tale stuff. Yeah. So this is a really, they're right there, even further. It's
you're 100% right. And look, you in just the last couple of minutes have expressed more empathy and understanding for a decision that you have decided you wouldn't make, but you don't judge those people. You try to understand why they might be making those decisions. You try to understand what the government could do that would influence women making that decision. That was more understanding than the entire anti-abortion movement has had in the last 50 years, and to their own detriment. If they actually were pro-life, and not just pro-fetus, they could actually get some people to support them. If people really believe,
they're not even pro-fetus, John. They're pro-control. This is not about the fetus.
Yeah, it's pro about it's stopping women from exercising bodily autonomy. It is upholding hierarchy. That's what it's about.
100%.
And we're gonna give you the advice and the evidence in a minute. But I would just ask the audience to try to keep to empathy during this, and you might not always know exactly where that might be needed. Like a lot of people will respond. Like I remember when Texas passed their law, some people were like, "Well, they should just move out of Texas." Okay, sure, but that's very difficult. How easy would it be for you to move to a different part of the country right now? How easy would it be for me or Viviana to move to a different part of the country? Like, sure, even if they do this, there will always be states where abortion is legal, but for many women, even traveling to one of those states would be prohibitive. You could lose your job. It could be a massive problem in regards to your relationship or your family. As Viviana was saying, you could be in an abusive relationship. So let's try to have understanding. We have to have understanding and empathy, because that's like definitely.
And how far do we take it, John? How far do we take it? If we're going to start limiting women's rights to choose what to do with their body because of production of because of a conception, then do we start limiting men's rights? Oh, I want to get a vasectomy. Oh, no, that you're interfering with God's plan. Where do we draw the line? We have to draw the line at our citizens and our right to be autonomous and have free agency over our bodies. That is the line. That is why Roe versus Wade was in place. And that is what we need to uphold. Now, I am with everyone else out there. We do not want rampant abortions, and that is not what the problem is. And there are not women out there who are like, do I want to be pregnant anymore? I'm 8.5 months pregnant. Do I want to do this anymore? Nobody. This is a major decision that is about the life of them, the life of their baby, all kinds of things that they should be discussing privately with their doctor. The fact that this is out in the open again is really frightening. We don't know when this is going to stop. And if the Supreme Court goes back on their own ruling, then this means everything is questionable. Civil rights is questionable. I mean, once we start going, it's a slippery slope.
Well, they got rid of the Voting Rights Act. I mean, I would argue, yeah, we already have done that. And all of this is because they're getting what they paid for over the course of multiple decades. They wanted an insane right-wing radical Supreme Court. They have it. It is now giving back what it was put there to achieve. So let's demonstrate that now. As we're waiting to find out exactly what's going to happen with the SCOTUS decision on this Mississippi law, here are a few of the key statements that we can use to try to understand where they might go. So Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who of course has faced multiple accusations of sexual assault and sexual harassment, he said you have to pick when considering the interest of the pregnant woman and the fetus. That's the fundamental problem. And one interest has to prevail over the other at any given point in time. When you have those two interests at stake and both are important, as you acknowledge, why should this court be the arbiter rather than Congress, the state legislatures, state Supreme Courts, the people being able to resolve this? Well, I might make the case because you're literally the goddamn Supreme Court. At the end of the day, when there is disagreement about fundamental rights, it is literally your only job to be the arbiter of that. But I don't know, the dude has trouble understanding these concepts because he really, really likes beer. But anyway, that is him indicating, well, it's not on us, it's to them, which just means we're gonna let right-wing states take away your rights that you have. And let's see, Alito was questioning the Center for Reproductive Rights attorney, Julie Rickleman, about the viability line and said, what does a woman have when reaching the point of viability that would make her want an abortion that she didn't have before reaching it?
I don't know, knowledge of her pregnancy?
Knowledge of her pregnancy, time to have thought about it, time to have navigated a dense web of relationships and obligations and attempts to pressure her, the financial ability to do something about it, the knowledge of where she needs to go and when, working through multiple state regulations that make it take as long as possible and be as onerous as possible. That's some of the things that she might have. Again, they like to pretend that they don't live in this country. They don't understand these sorts of things.
They like to pretend that children don't live in poverty, that people don't live, check to check, barely getting by. They like to pretend that we have an insurance system that actually values human life. It's really, the hypocrisy is sad, John. It's just upsetting. It is.
Well, here's something more upsetting, potentially. Remember, was it Alito that, it might have been Kavanaugh too. Susan Collins is like, well, I believe that he will uphold the law and the law is Roe v. Wade. Okay, yeah, you really believe that. You super believe that. Weird. You were apparently super wrong. Will there be any consequences for that? No, because she's rich and powerful. There's never any consequences. But anyway, we also have, as of this morning, Judge Amy Coney Barrett, who was totally not put on the court at the last minute because she was a whack job Christian radical, a right winger, said both Roe and Casey emphasize the burdens of parenting. She then asked why safe haven laws, regulations under which parents cannot be prosecuted for leaving their newborn in a safe location or with an appropriate person, don't, quote, take care of that problem. I mean, after all, if there's adoption, which this is apparently new, I don't think that you could have put kids up for adoption before, then why should you have any control over your body? You should just bear it for 9 months, deal with, tens of thousands of dollars in medical debt, lifelong effects on your body, the possibility that will make it even more difficult for you to deal with an abusive spouse, abusive parents, all sorts of things like that, and then give it up for adoption. That's easy after all, from Amy Coney Barrett's point of view. So Viviana, you're a woman. Why doesn't that just take care of the whole thing?
is really very short-sighted, and a lot of times people in privileged positions, which I assume Amy is one of them, and she has several children of her own, and I believe she's adopted, and so this is why she has this like chip on her shoulder about adoption. As a former social worker, obviously I'm a huge proponent of adoption. As a woman that was never able to conceive and have her own child, I'm a huge proponent of adoption. I may adopt in the future. This doesn't, they're two different things. This is about a woman's right to her own body. You deciding how, she's one of those people like, oh, you can come to my party, just leave or work early, take the bus, and figures out your life for you. Don't figure out my life for me. Let me figure out my life. If I tell you I can't do something, respect that, honor that, and let's move forward. Of course, there's a lot of different ways that you can make an unwanted pregnancy, work out for you. But you're one person, Amy Coney Barrett, and you don't get to decide for everybody. In fact, your job is to protect everybody's right to decide for themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. We have already provided, and experts testifying can provide even more. Tons of reasons why women in a variety of different life circumstances might want to exercise the reproductive rights they've had their entire life.
I said
before, the other side is because our interpretation of right-wing Christianity says we don't want you to. That is the only.
That's the only thing.
That's the only thing on the other side. She has taken one religion that conveniently they follow in the Supreme Court, and decided, no, my religious beliefs trump your rights. Okay, well then I'm sure that they're going to be, just as fine with if we were to put 6 Muslims, 6 Hindus, 6 Buddhists, 6 left-wing Christians. And then just whoever has the majority takes whatever belief they have that they were raised in, and then that's what we all have to follow. That's the precedent that we're setting.
If they're so concerned about that, why aren't fertility treatments covered by insurance for women? That's not covered. You're so concerned about our fertility, but you won't pay for us to get pregnant if we want to help us get pregnant. We can't afford that, but you're gonna decide that we should be pregnant if we don't wanna be pregnant. I've had a lot of friends who have had abortions, who some of them regret them. Some of them they say it was the best decision they ever made. I know somebody that's had a couple of abortions. They stand by, you know what, I had to do it. It was the best decision I ever made. As a social worker, I took people to get abortions, young women that needed to get abortions and have an adult there with them. And it was a difficult decision for them. And I'm glad that I have the right to choose for myself. I told you earlier, I don't think that I would do it, but you know what? I don't know for sure. What if there was a circumstance that put me in a position that my life was at risk, my child's life was at risk, I was in an abusive situation? Who knows? To not give somebody the right to choose about their own body is just obscene. And you're absolutely right. The Republican Party has been planning this for decades. They have been planning it since Reagan. They've been planning it since Bush. And we're finally here. And this is a very dangerous time. We really need to get involved politically. The youth need to be involved. All genders need to be involved, all ages. This is about our right to our own body. Once you start limiting rights, and just for women, it'll happen to men too. If you just get to decide what we get to decide to tell you what to do with your body, then where is the line? This is what's wrong.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna jump ahead to these polls. Just for, I don't know, tradition's sake, let's pretend that we live in a democracy and let's talk about things that might matter in a democracy. So polls show that not only do people support women's reproductive rights, they in fact do it more than ever before. There's broad support for abortion rights. In Gallup polls, they show that Americans' support for abortion in all or most cases was at 80% in May. I didn't even know you could find an issue that 80% of people support, but they do in this case. The share of Americans in Gallup's poll who say abortion is morally acceptable reached a record high of 47% in May, up from a low of 36% in 2009. And Quinnipiac poll found support for abortion being legal in all or most cases reached a near record high in September with 63% support. I say these things just because you might start to question with the fact that the right wing has gotten so many crazies on the Supreme Court. Wait, maybe I'm in the minority. No, people have been supporting this for literally decades. They continue to be even more so, but we don't fundamentally live in a democracy. We just don't. And another way that manifests is we keep electing politicians who say that they support these things and then they don't really do it. And that comes in a variety of forms. Some might be, for instance, if you were to elect a Democratic president and an opening on the Supreme Court came up, and then the Democrats didn't actually fight to fill it, and instead you get a crazy like Alito in the spot, that might be frustrating. Or if you deliver the House in 2018 and then the White House and the Senate in 2020 to the Democrats, and then the conservatives still have this majority of the Supreme Court, and then the Democrats tweet this. I'm gonna jump ahead of the last graphic in this block. Elect Democrats to protect abortion rights. Okay, so apparently the Senate Democrats, or at least the person managing their Twitter, has been in some sort of hibernation pod for the last year. We did that. Now do it. You have you have the Senate, you have the House. There are things you can do, even if you've totally given up on the Supreme Court, which apparently you have.
Yeah.
There are things you could do. You could codify it in law. You could put pressure on the senators that would be necessary to get rid of the filibuster so you can actually pass any of this, because no legislation can actually pass without getting rid of it. You could do these things.
What is the money behind this, John? What is the money behind this anti-abortion push? Because everything in the
No, it's a great question, and in this case, there is very much money behind it, but it's not directly behind it. It's not that billionaires desperately want to stop, some woman in, like
Mississippi,
Mississippi from getting an abortion. It's they need this to motivate their side, because their side being motivated and turning out and winning elections and getting the Supreme Court delivers what they actually care about, which is purely economic issues.
There was that Netflix documentary, was it called The Promise Keepers? What was it called? Where they had the conservative Christian, like prayer that they sponsor with every inauguration. Do you remember that?
I'm not sure. It might be about the family. I'm not sure.
The family, that's right. Yeah, and there's a lot of money behind that, and putting we got to figure this out, because that's what's happening. It really isn't about abortion. It's really about control, and it's about something else. Really, we got to get to the bottom of it, because they don't care. Kavanaugh probably has had abortions since Trump has. I mean,
just so like we knew it was coming.
Yeah, of course we knew it was coming when they didn't let Obama put somebody on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and look, like. Anyway, we're gonna take our first break. There's other aspects on this. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more tomorrow, but there is a lot of other stuff that we'll be talking about as well. We will be watching to see what happens. That said, it is pretty clear what's developing. Can't wait to hear stuff about how in a couple of years the Democrats will do something. You're in control right now. You can do things right now. There are things that Biden could have already done for women in Texas dealing with this new law. They just choose not to. They desperately want power and then don't ever use it for anything. Not anything that benefits us.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they're too busy trying to appease both sides.
Yeah. And who are they actually? Who supports this? Who supports this? Anyway, we're gonna take our first break. We'll be back with more after this. It's frustrating, is what it is. Okay, so with that, let's see what's going on in the audience. Supermoth became a member at Tier 1 on YouTube. Thank you, Supermoth, for being here. $100 Quills became a Tier 2 member. Thank you so much. You get access to our top 10 lists with that. I did a video about the show Arcane this Monday. Next week, I believe we're gonna be doing our top 10 doctors we'd prefer to enter the Senate rather than Dr. Oz. So that'll be coming up next Monday. We could do a top 100 list, honestly.
Dr. Spock.
I didn't even put Dr. Spock on there.
Not the baby one.
I'm putting the Vulcan. I'm putting the Vulcan. And all of the doctors across all of the shows.
Dr. Nick from The Simpsons. Hi, everybody.
Oh my God, I would totally prefer Dr. Nick. He's got a great entrance,
He does.
Okay, so.
And he's just about as knowledgeable as Oz.
Probably more so. He spreads less misinformation. Anyway, let's see. Captain Pollywog Vanderbeef says potatoes, boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew, but only while you can, because climate change is coming. Gilbert Wilcox says, who's the salty one? And rightfully so. I think we're both kind of salty today, honestly, Viviana.
Well, abortion is not a fun topic.
No, it's not. The Centaur says, being born on January 6th, the 12th day of Xmas sucks. At least Christ got 3 gifts for his. I always just got the one Xmas birthday gift for 20 years.
He just got myrrh.
there's like almost 2 weeks between Christmas and your birthday. You deserve a real birthday at that point. It's not, if you're between Christmas and New Year's, okay, you're boned, but that's not fair.
2 of my nieces were born in Christmas week, one on Christmas Day and one a few days before Christmas.
Yeah.
They get one gift. Sorry, guys.
Jason Ray has, I would classify this as the sort of statement that is a great point that never matters. Child support for men should start at conception then. Why doesn't it? It's child, right? No. It never has any of those consequences that you'd expect.
No.
Anyway, let's see. Lane Clarkey says, having a termination saved my life. Mental health issues made pregnancy impossible.
See?
Yeah.
I'm glad she was able to get one.
Yeah, they don't care to understand your life experience. Carrington Kelly Burney, a very generous super chat. Thank you, Carrington. Says, you guys are nailing the abortion issue. I'm in the same camp Viviana is. I'm 71 and have fought for women's rights since a teen. How the hell did we get here? Keep up the good work. Love you. Thank you. Carrington is 71.
She helped us get here. Thank you.
Exactly.
It was women like her who are out there making it happen. That's amazing. I got chills thinking about that. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Hartman from Family Guy says, Arthur Ashbrook, thank you. I'll take pretty much any of them. Okay, let's see. Musically, Meg says, if you die, your organs can't be donated unless you are a donor, even if it could save up to 8 lives. They aren't raising a fuss about that. Dead bodies get more autonomy than living women.
Wow. That's heavy.
That is. Chaplain Fred says, exactly. She's on this now too. John, religion is toxic for sure. So many conservative Christians use it wrongfully. They forget that it's supposed to be to help orphans, widows, sick, hungry, naked, promise keepers. It was about the family coming together. Yeah, they don't, it's used for, they have an economic outcome they want. And so they use whatever tools they need to get us there. Whether it's religious or right-wing media or whatever, that's what they do.
It's an emotional issue and it really can sway people.
Yeah, it can. Over on Twitch, Patricia Swan gifted 10 tier 1 subs. Very nice of you. Thank you so much. Metal Mom subscribed for the 6th month. Thank you. Josh Sess hit 11 months. Mouse and a Dragon onesie hit 10. Person after my own heart. With that, we got more news for you coming up after this. Okay, so after that, let's get a little bit weird. Oh wait, by the way, Gina J, the introvert, I just saw hit 19 months on the cusp of 20. Has anyone reached 20? I don't think anyone's reached 20 yet. But anyway, Gina J says, love the show and TYT Network. I enjoy being part of the Dragon Squad and TYT fam. Introvert Dragon here. And if Gina J hadn't been the introvert dragon, I would have been. So she claimed it for me. Anyway, with that, let's jump into more news with this video.
The president says it's fake news. What is the story here?
Well, the president's right. It's fake news. If you actually read the book, the context of it, that story outlined a false positive. Literally had a test, had 2 other tests after that showed that he didn't have COVID during the debate, and yet the way that the media wants to spin it is certainly to be as negative about Donald Trump as they possibly can. While giving Joe Biden a pass.
Okay, so there's a lot of issues there. So that is Newsmax. Mark Meadows wants to have his grift and be eaten by it too. So he comes out with a book that reveals all the stuff we talked about on the show yesterday about Trump getting a positive COVID test and then running around the country hugging as many people as he possibly could, and then blaming those people for him getting COVID. Okay, so Trump then claims that it's fake news, lying to us about his lies. And Mark Meadows says, yep, I spread fake news, or the interpretation was fake news, and they give Biden a pass. On what? Biden he didn't do any of this. He's not even a part of this. They just say things. They have no regard for words. But that said, there's a few issues with Mark Meadows' saying there. So first of all, Viviana, though, I want to give you a chance. I'm sure you saw the news yesterday about Trump and the debate and the Gold Star families. Now they're saying, oh, no. Yeah, sure, he tested positive, but he also had a negative test. So it's all fake news for you to be angry at him.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had an idea when it was going on. I mean, we were all doing the math once he was in the hospital. We were like, wait a minute, this isn't adding up. Come on, we know what happened. He was positive. They were trying to hide it. He didn't think he was gonna get sick. He got sick. He got sicker than he thought he was going to get. He got hospitalized. He pretended he wasn't that sick. And here we are. I mean, Mark Meadows, oh, well, if you read the book, did you read the book? Did you write the book? Like, what's going on? Because I think we all know without even the book coming out what happened. And if you have to test 50 times, is it positive? Is it negative? Is it positive? And then they use the most, but like worthless test to determine.
Yeah. Well, and that's apparently what they did. So in the book, he details that in a rapid antigen test, they tested negative after testing positive. Okay, well that is a higher fallibility rate.
Right.
But whether it does or not, here is what they want you to believe. Okay, so try to forget everything that you have predisposed about whether you're a progressive or all the news. Okay, so a person has a positive test for potentially lethal virus. They get a positive test and then they get a negative test. Okay, let's say they get a positive test and then 2 negative tests. What would you do as a human being? Would you say, oh, well, screw the positive one. I'm just gonna run around without a mask. And I'm gonna go up to these people who lost their kids in the military and I'm gonna hug them and give them a kiss on the cheek. Is that what you would do?
It's horrible.
You just take the one that's convenient?
Horrible.
Or would you err on the side of, oh, well, there's a little bit of ambiguity here and the stakes are super high.
If we go back to that time, the CDC guidelines at that time were to quarantine if you've been exposed.
Yeah, not even tested positive. So we want him to be a human. And by the way, what Meadows is saying there, well, I'm gonna show you a bit more of the video so that you can see, because the weird thing that happened in this interaction was that Newsmax guy, I'm being told his name is Rob Schmidt, whatever. So the Newsmax guy kind of asks an actual follow-up question.
Yeah.
The timing is interesting, though. You have to admit. I mean, was it even a week later that they choppered him to Walter Reed and the president was very sick?
Yeah, listen, any time that we look at things and we look at tests and we look at what happened, it's certainly that's what I outline in the book and talk about that Walter Reed visit. But there's a lot of great stories in the book that candidly talk about the miraculous work, the historic work that Donald Trump did. I think most of your viewers will find it a very enjoyable read, and I would encourage them to read it for themselves.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So the story is that it was a false positive. He got negative ones after that, but the first one was a false positive.
That's correct. So yeah, so he didn't have COVID during the debate.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I want to talk.
Yeah, fair enough. That's convinced him. I mean, again, they don't do the sociopath test. Whereas, like, if you had like an STD test that was positive and then negative, and you're like looking at it, and then looking at the bedroom door to the person laying on the bed, I'm going with the negative. And then you run in. Is that a good person? Is that a moral person? Would you do that? You would not do that. But that Newsmax host who actually asked the follow-up questions and like, oh, okay, yeah, no, they should just read the book then.
Well, I like how Meadows was like, but there's a lot of really great stories that your viewers are gonna like. Forget don't ignore the man behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz.
Who might or might not have an STD.
It's like, oh, I took a pregnancy test, it was positive. And then I took another pregnancy test and it was negative. And then I was pregnant a week later. Was the first one a false positive? I don't know.
That is a devastating point, because his claim isn't just that there was ambiguity. He's going to the mat saying it was an actual false positive, not that they disagreed. He didn't have COVID when he did those things. Well, first of all, the debate was literally 3 days after the false positive. The Gold Star event was after that. So the window when supposedly Trump actually got sick starts to get really narrow. Mark Meadows would have you believe that like someone breathed COVID on Donald Trump and he just fell over in a hospital instantly. That's not actually how it worked. I will remind you, Mark Meadows, he actually had COVID. He went to the hospital, you dingus. So yes, it probably wasn't a false positive for the thing he definitely had.
It seems interesting that he can understand the nuance of science and testing when it comes to this specific example. But in general, they're like, oh, well, Dr. Fauci's saying this, and now he's saying this, and now he's saying this. But when it comes to this example, he can understand how there could be a false positive, and then maybe this. But my favorite part was like, But don't worry about that. There's lots of fun stories for everyone to enjoy.
And to enjoy them, you only need to give me $19.99. Yeah, that's convenient, buddy. No, I'm not buying your stupid book. I don't buy any of them, even for people I like. You definitely aren't on that list. Anyway, the Republicans have been attempting to, I guess in this case, have their pandemic and eat it too. So they advocate endlessly for more and more COVID cases and deaths. And then they turn around and use the presence of the COVID cases and deaths as a club to bludgeon the Biden administration with. So we're gonna show you a video. We don't often show Jen Psaki videos in this case. I'm not one of the like team Psaki bombers or whatever. But I thought that this was a good response to the reporter Ducey's question, which you'll see here.
First Trump-Biden debate today, but at the second one in 2020, when roughly 220,000 Americans had already died of COVID, Joe Biden said about Trump, anyone who is responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America. Is that still the standard now that more Americans have died under President Biden than President Trump?
Well, I think the fundamental question here is, what are you doing to save lives and protect people? And the former president was suggesting people inject bleach. He apparently, reportedly, didn't even share with people he was going to interact with that he had tested positive for COVID himself. He continued to provide a forum for misinformation, which probably led to people not taking steps forward to protect themselves, to wear masks, to eventually get vaccinated. This president has made the vaccine widely available. He's relied on the advice of his health and medical experts, and he is trying to be a part of solving this crisis, getting the pandemic under control. And I think there's a pretty stark difference between their approaches. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, so Viviana, we're gonna do a little bit of bubble popping. We're gonna try to step out of our bubble and we're gonna try to be super needlessly fair. So they're saying he said he'd end this thing and he hasn't ended it. There's still a lot of COVID. That said, there are people like the cult of COVID has been working in overdrive this year to make sure that people still get exposed to it and still die from it. So how fair is the criticism of Biden? Is there anything to it?
I actually don't think the criticism is very fair. I think she did a very good job. I mean, it was a little bit like snarky about the bleach comment, but it's true, so it's fair. We have a lot of people who do not want to get vaccinated. We have a lot of people who do not want to wear masks, and so the virus has evolved, morphed. It still is. We have a new variant coming. So is that Joe Biden's fault? No. What will be Joe Biden's fault is if we're not taking care of those people to continue to provide PPE, provide testing. I mean, it's really, if anybody has school-age children right now, they know how difficult it is because they have to go get a test for these kids. If they have a sniffle, they got to go back to school, they got to quarantine. And it's been a nightmare for parents and for kids. So that I put on Joe Biden. I don't put him infecting people because what's going on now is a lot different than what was going on at the beginning of the pandemic. And you know what? I was really hopeful that Trump was going to take this by the horns and actually be a leader. I was really hopeful that he could get it together and get his team together. I mean, he's kind of a useless blob, but maybe he has people behind him that could prop him up and make him do something, but he didn't. So yeah, it is his fault. Absolutely, because he was spreading misinformation, because he was encouraging people to do things that were going to harm themselves, and he didn't take action soon enough to actually protect the country. So it's completely apples and oranges. Now, I don't love Joe Biden, but I'm not going to put all of us on him because he did inherit it.
Yeah, and look, you made a great point about the misinformation as well as the anti-vax stuff, but I would say it is a little bit inconsistent. Again, trying to stay out of my bubble, for someone from Fox to say, hey, people are still getting COVID and that's bad, when he works for a network that literally says you should try to get natural immunity, which means you should try to get COVID. Like, you can't be like, it's awesome, everybody's getting COVID. Why did he let people get COVID? Shouldn't you be applauding him at that point? Like, if you like the governors of red states where people are like dying of COVID, then wouldn't he get more credit? Anyway, let's talk about one of the consequences of this. We're gonna jump ahead to our next block. A lot of COVID on the show today.
So a lot of COVID in the country.
It's everywhere. Since the beginning of this pandemic, people have been pushing misinformation. And one of their favorite brands of misinformation is literally anything you should do rather than wear a mask, socially distance, get the vaccine. Anything else is good, those things are bad. So take, drugs for all sorts of other stuff that don't treat COVID and take that instead. So they started off with hydroxychloroquine. They briefly dabbled in sunlight up your bum and a little bit of bleach, but then they got laughed at for that. So they quickly moved on to medicines for animals. And so ivermectin and all of that stuff that despite months and months more passing have not been demonstrated to actually help with treating COVID. But they have convinced people, these politicians as well as right-wing, people in the news, and in media, including people like Joe Rogan, that is what you should get. And the consequence of this is that hospitals are now facing both legal challenges as well as harassment because they don't want to give people stuff that isn't a treatment for the illness they have. One Montana hospital went into lockdown and called police after a woman threatened violence because a relative was denied a request to be treated with ivermectin. Officials of a different Montana hospital accused public officials of threatening and harassing their healthcare workers for refusing to treat a politically connected COVID-19 patient with ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. In neighboring Idaho, a medical resident said police had to be called to a hospital after a COVID patient's relative verbally abused her and threatened physical violence because she would not prescribe ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. Dr. Ashley Carvalho said, "My patient was struggling to breathe, but the family refused to allow me to provide care." They don't want stuff that actually fixes it. They want the stuff that the podcasters and the YouTubers told them to take instead.
Right. Which is probably more harmful than the actual vaccine itself. I just don't.
Well, in terms of side effects, definitely. And it doesn't have the side effect of actually treating the illness.
It's really ridiculous. And it's not just conservatives, John. And you know this. There are people who consider themselves more liberal, who are anti-vaxxers and who have refused to get the vaccine. I've seen it amongst my own friend group, people who were positive with COVID and went to Whole Foods to pick up some bone broth or whatever they're gonna get. Just thinking, and I didn't get that sick, it wasn't that bad. Well, for you, but what about your 75-year-old grandmother or something? I mean, it's just the lack of concern for others is really kind of mind-boggling. And we're seeing a little bit of a trend in society right now that way across the board. We're seeing it like we saw at the Scott concert where there was the trampling of people and whatnot. You have to be aware of what's going on around you, and you have to be empathetic to those people, because guess what? You also are part of the masses. And if we don't care about each other, then you're also in danger. So we need to get this individualistic American pride ideology and become a little bit more collectivistic to think if we want to survive as a species, we need to work together. And part of that is, we've done it for generations. That's why we don't have polio. It's crazy. Let's keep doing it.
We did it for other stuff. And the anti-vax stuff is not new. I would say traditionally it seems like it was more sort of like liberals and stuff like that up until it became this big political thing. My only hope is that these treatment drugs somehow evade this pattern. That I understand it's difficult to imagine because it actually apparently treats COVID. So there's gonna be a lot of pressure on the right to not take it. But maybe it's not a vaccine. Maybe can we feed it to a donkey or something on camera? Maybe if they see a donkey take it,
then you're gonna get PETA after you, John. Don't get PETA after you. You don't need that.
I will deal with PETA if it stops the pandemic. How about that? Anyway, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to break. We do have one more little COVID story. It's sort of important and it's coming a little bit close to home here. So we're gonna take a short break, but we'll be back. We'll have a lot more news for you after this. Okay, everybody, so we are going to see what's going on in the audience. First of all, though, I do want to remind you that as always, Indisputable is coming up right after this program at twitch.tv/TYT or youtube.com/indisputable_TYT. You've got Dr. Rashad Ritchie, and in addition, you have Senator Nina Turner. Very exciting, so you're not gonna wanna miss that. Before we get into the comments, though, I would like to shamelessly plug something. So if you were on the pre-show, you already know about this. In my private life, when I'm trying to not lose total faith in humanity and not want to be a part of society, I have recently written a book. And one of the things I'm doing to try to promote it a little bit and get an agent interested is there is a thing on Twitter called #PitMad, where you sort of promote your book. You do the log line for it basically, and if people in the industry are interested, then they might request to see it. So this morning I sent 2 tweets with that hashtag, PITMAD. And if you would like to help me out, it would be great for you to go to twitter.com/John Iadarola. And I've only sent a few tweets today. You can easily find those too. And if you would retweet them or comment on them, that would be awesome. And I would be very much in your debt. I would ask though that you not like the tweets though. The way that this thing works, the industry professionals are supposed to like it to indicate their interest, and it throws the whole thing off if other people do. But if you could retweet them, that would be great. And I see people in chat saying that they're already doing that. You can find out a little bit about what this crazy nerdy book I'm writing is actually about by going to twitter.com/John Iadarola. And so I would very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. That said, other stuff going on out there. Becca Gould, AKA Loki Dragon, has been a tier 2 member for 11 months and says, can I please get some love from the Dragon Squad today? Oh, my sweet mama was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor on Thanksgiving morning. That is devastating. Growing up, my father had brain tumors as well, just horrendous. So sorry to hear about that, especially happening to your mother on a holiday, devastating. Yeah. So sorry to hear that. In reference to the earlier story that we talked about on Twitch, You Can Call Me Jess says, I was raped and became pregnant with my daughter. I chose to have her and gave her a better life via adoption to a very loving family. I made this decision because it was what was right for me. That being said, I would never impose my decision upon another woman.
Yeah,
that is
thank you for sharing
reasonable.
That. Wow.
Yes.
It's powerful.
But some people who've never had the experience that she talks about there believe that they should be able to force millions of people to make a particular decision.
Well, they would use her and say, well, look what happened with her and she did it. Yeah, but it was her choice. And that's the thing, you cannot, I'm sure it was a very difficult decision for her. And
yeah, we don't go around trying to make people have abortions that want to give birth. We don't do that. We are actually pro-choice. We believe it should be up to you. At least try to stick with your label.
Ironically, there are some people in the conservative party that do want to sterilize women who are on welfare and prevent them from. So I don't know. Kavanaugh says you have to pick.
I know. Gail, he's drunk though. Don't try to hold him to his words. Gail Hafner says Trump had COVID during the debate where he should have been tested that night. He was a sweaty mess and more scattered than normal. Exactly. Yeah.
He was so
why didn't
sweaty.
He take the test? Why didn't he take the test? It's weird. He was in a rush.
He knew.
No, we understand that. He knew.
Trump used to spread crabs in college. You know it.
He's cheap. It would be fake crabs at best. Anyway, Adam the Vanillite gifted a tier 1 sub over on Twitch. Very nice of you. Thank you. Let's see. Thank you, Little Miss Gamer Drag. I'm not gonna read that, but thank you. Khalil resubscribed for the 16th month. So much is going on out there. We got more news for you coming up after this. By the way, I can see that some of you have gone and retweeted those tweets on my Twitter. Thank you so much for that. It is very, very nice of you. We will see. It's it's a 1 in 100 chance that an agency sees it, but hopefully.
306 retweets, John.
Damn, thank you everyone. That's so nice of you. And I saw that Anna did. Oh, she's so nice. Anyway, we do have a lot more news to talk about. So why don't we jump into this?
That a recent case of COVID-19 among an individual in California was caused by the Omicron variant.
It's here. The Omicron variant is here in the US. I mean, did we have any doubt? It had already hit so many different countries. But it's here. Governor Gavin Newsom said that the state's large-scale testing and early detection systems uncovered the case, adding, we should assume that it's in other states as well. And that seems like a slam dunk case there. It is probably in other states. It is probably gonna spread quite readily. It's already been found in Australia, Austria, Belgium, Botswana, Britain, Canada, Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Germany, Hong Kong, Israel, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, Portugal. And hey, now we're on the list. America just always coming up just slightly after those other countries.
What's it gonna take? What's it gonna take? How many variants do we have to go through before people start vaccinating themselves?
Yeah. Well, look, in this particular case, it seems like it might have some added power to evade vaccination, but it also is known to affect you less than some of the other variants, which might well be because of the vaccines that many of these people who've been infected have.
But see, that's the thing that gets people misled. So you can get it even though you're vaccinated. But the reason it did become a new variant is it was allowed to grow because people are not being vaccinated. So the fact that it infects a vaccinated person is actually bad because people were not getting vaccinated before with the original variant.
And it's still the best protection that we have, and it still likely makes the cases less severe. That said, Dr. Fauci did have a little bit more information about the Omicron variant hitting the US, so here he is with that.
Right now, the individual was a traveler who returned from South Africa on November the 22nd and tested positive on November the 29th. The individual is self-quarantining, and all close contacts have been contacted, and all close contacts thus far have tested negative. The individual was fully vaccinated and experienced mild symptoms, which are improving at this point. We knew that it was just a matter of time before the first case of Omicron would be detected in the United States. And as you know, we know, I've been saying it, and my colleagues on the medical team and others have been saying it, we know what we need to do to protect people. Get vaccinated if you're not already vaccinated. Get boosted if you've been vaccinated for more than 6 months with an mRNA or 2 months with J&J. And all the other things we've been talking about getting your children vaccinated, masking in indoor congregate settings, etc.
So the advice is basically the same. The evidence so far seems to indicate that this might spread fairly freely because it seems to have some ability to evade vaccination, but that the cases tend to be more mild based on the experience of other countries. And you also bear in mind, the Delta variant is still running rampant throughout the US. So the advice is the same, just get vaccinated.
I just got my booster a couple of weeks, John. A couple of weeks ago, got my booster.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have any negative reaction at all, but a lot of people have had some, soreness, body kind of chills and things like that, especially older people. So if that's a taste of what you're gonna feel like if you get sick, then I'd rather just go through it for one day with the booster. But I literally had nothing. No, I didn't have any negative reactions to any of the vaccines or the booster.
I had a little bit of arm soreness, but that's it. And yeah, I'd say it's worth it. Okay, with that, let's jump into very different news. Oh no, the E-Block.
That's not a face I want to see. There's a face.
I don't think she wants to be affiliated with that face. There you go. Thank you. Stacey Abrams has announced that she is going to be running again. Now, she had run in the governor's race in Georgia back in 2018, became sort of nationally prominent, especially on the topic of voting rights, particularly because of all of the voter suppression that happened in advance of her race. So she could potentially be running again against Governor Brian Kemp. 3 years ago, she lost by about 55,000 votes, a very narrow thing. So we would assume, would have the best chance probably in that state of winning in a rematch, especially with the fact that both Senate seats went for the Democrats recently. But I do want to throw out there that some things have changed since then, and not just that the state seemingly is moving more blue. Like in a lot of states, the Republicans are also making it harder to vote. They've lowered the time you have to request absentee ballots, strict new ID requirements. It's illegal for election officials to mail out absentee ballots to all voters. Drop boxes have been limited. Mobile voting centers are essentially banned. You can't give out water, and on and on and on and on. So these are the exact sorts of things that a Governor Abrams would presumably try to limit or reverse. But first, she has to get past all these new restrictions, Viviana. It's convenient.
I'm ecstatic that she's running again. She is our best bet for that region of the country. She is an incredible leader. She just really changed the face of politics in Georgia. And she's gonna be an incredible advocate for voting rights and to be able to protect her constituents down there in Georgia as well. Is it gonna be hard? Yes. Am I gonna contribute to her campaign? Yes. Do I hope she wins? Yes.
I love those chains of questions and answers. Sure. Not everyone is happy about this announcement, though. Not everybody's pulling a Viviana. Is Brian Kemp mad? Yes. Is he tweeting about it? Yes. So he tweeted, with Stacey Abrams in control, Georgia would have shut down. Students would have been barred from their classrooms, and woke politics would be the law of the land and the lesson plan in our schools. Woo! Yes, you just have a book and every page would just be woke, 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 woke. They don't have anything to run on.
What is woke politics?
I don't know.
Critical race theory again? Critical race theory?
You know, Stacey Abrams just always doing a critical race theory all over the place. That's what would happen. But anyway, here's the thing. While Brian Kemp is not happy, Trump isn't happy either, seemingly with either of them. So he effectively tweeted through his, the woman on Twitter who's effectively his Twitter account now, and said, Stacey, the hoax Abrams has just announced that she's running for governor of Georgia. I beat her single-handedly without much of a candidate in 2018. I don't even know what that means. They didn't run against each other. I don't understand what he's saying.
I'll beat her again.
I'm gonna be the governor of Georgia. I will never step foot there, but I will be the governor. But it'll be hard work to do with Brian Kemp because the MAGA base will just not vote for him after what he did with respect to election integrity and 2 horribly run elections for president and then 2 Senate seats. But some good Republican will run and some good Republican will get my endorsement and some good Republican will win. Or they'll lose, in which case I'll say that they were losers and I never liked them.
I like that he beat her. He beat her.
He beat her. What, like in a marathon in Super Smash Brothers? What did you beat her in? I don't understand. And by the way, he hates Brian Kemp because Brian Kemp didn't somehow give him Georgia, even though, dude, you still would have lost the presidency. But Brian Kemp did pass all these extra voter suppression measures. It's not like Georgia was like ballots
but
for
Trump
all.
Doesn't even understand that. All he cared about was the certification of the election. He doesn't care about anything else. And Kemp didn't do what he wanted. No, could care. He doesn't even know where it is. But Kemp didn't do what he wanted, so now he hates him. And he has crabs.
Exactly. Allegedly has crabs. Anyway, so look, we're gonna have to see. I would assume that it will be Kemp that's gonna run. Maybe there will be some kind of contested primary. You never know from messages like this from Trump how dead set he is on actually trying to take out that Republican. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but it's gonna be a difficult race no matter what. It is still an incredibly close state. And that is assuming that people actually turn out and are able to actually vote. And there are reasons to believe that neither of those things might happen. So
Trump's anger at Kemp will only last as long as Kemp needs to go and kiss his ring, and then that'll be it. Then
he'll do.
Which he'll do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. So we'll be watching this and we'll see. We'll try to get Stacey Abrams on the show. So good
yes.
luck with that. Retweet that tweet later on. Anyway, if you've been watching on our linear platforms, thank you so much for that. But if you're on the members app or YouTube or Twitch, we do have a lot more news. So don't go anywhere. We're gonna take a short break. If you do go somewhere, go retweet that thing, and then we'll be back after this. Welcome back, one and all, to what remains of this show with me, John Iadarola, and Viviana. Viviana, as always, thank you for being here.
Glad to be here, John. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you here. And you know what? Before we jump into a few of the comments, I did want to say, if we could do this on Twitch, it would be great. We were having a conversation during the break about a question of etiquette. When is the cutoff point for calling people at night? Our producer Sophie said she read a book growing up that said at 5, and I think that's bananas. I personally think it should be 9, 10 for people you know well, but 9 I would say. So I'm curious what people think. Viviana, you say 7?
If you don't know someone, I say around 7. So after 7 is I don't know, but if I know you, I think 9 is fair. But after 9, no, absolutely not.
I feel
not even a text. Send me
not even a text. Can I slack you? I think that's an anti-working class position. We're ground in the machine until so much later than we used to be. Like, who's home at 5 to be calling?
No one.
Anyway, okay, well, we'll see. Yo Batman says 6 for work, 9 for family, 11 for friends. I love that friends get to do it later than family.
What if it's
like
a
your
work
mom's
friend?
got an emergency? It's too late.
Yeah.
That's true. What if it's like your work husband? How about that? How do you manage that?
Any time of day.
There you go. Oh, geez. Okay, so let's see what's going on out there in the audience. May Money into Building sent in a super chat saying this chat is for Viviana because she is awesome and we haven't seen her in a while. Also, I like your shirt, John. Love the Witch Queen of Oakland Dragon. Thank you. I'm like, now that it's getting colder and I just feel like wearing long sleeves recently, so I'm trying to mix it up.
I'm freezing. I have a heater on my feet.
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
My God.
Toasty.
Let's see. Rick Quintanilla says, yesterday took my parents and myself to get our booster, taking the day off for just cause. I might be fresh shedding the vaccine so my coworkers wouldn't be worried. Lol in Texas.
Wait a minute, John, I gotta correct you there. It's Quintanilla, okay? Quintanilla.
I know.
That's Selena's last name, and we are not gonna mess it up.
I know it's Selena's last name. Don't try to come at me over Selena. Anyway.
Anything for Selena.
Anything. Arthur Ashbrook says, I thought of another doctor from Futurama, Zoe Berg. That's true, Dr. Berg is gonna have to be there. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says, funny how anti-abortionists don't argue against all other medical interventions as defying God's will. No, it's his holy will that I got this fatal infection or injury. Well, I mean, there are some Christians who do that, who don't want to use any medicine.
Yeah.
That's fun. Anyway, Zombo subscribed for 12 months. Thank you very much for that. Let's see, Be the Dragon hit 16 months as well. For Germany hit 4, says thanks for your wisdom. Thank you. Be the Dragon gifted a tier 1 sub, very nice of you. Purple Witch Dragon gifted a sub as well. You are the best. Kelly Elp hit 3 months, says thanks for everything you do. By far my favorite show. Thank you. Oh, by the way, thank you so much to all of you who sent us your like Spotify rap thing with us in your top podcast. That's so nice. Thank you. I don't listen to the podcast. I'm not a big fan. I mostly like Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro, but I appreciate those of you with bad taste who like our show. Thank you. Let's see. Bug Burt subscribed for 2 months too. And with that, I think that we should probably jump into some insanity. So everyone prepare yourself. Let's jump into this video.
Now the committee has decided to shut down one of the most popular journalists on the right, Alex Jones. Yes, journalist. Jones is often mocked for his flamboyance, but the truth is he has been a far better guide to reality in recent years. In other words, a far better journalist than, say, NBC News national security correspondent Ken Delanian or Margaret Brennan of CBS. Is that Alex Jones isn't simply innocent of inciting crime on January 6th. Alex Jones actively worked to prevent crimes from taking place on January 6th. We're not running interference for Alex Jones, and we're not guessing about it. We happen to know this for a fact because we looked into it in some detail for Patriot Purge. It's our 3-part documentary series on Fox Nation.
That was a documentary series like Alex Jones is a journalist. It is if you just have like flocks of air quotes flying around the room with you. Tucker Carlson is, I would say, a madman, but he's not actually crazy like Alex Jones is. I will remind people, I have stood next to Alex Jones and I've looked into his eyes and I've seen the void. He's actually crazy. Tucker Carlson has just decided I can become the most popular right winger if I just do all of the things Alex Jones does, but I don't lose my mind on camera, like stamping my fists and stuff. So him saying that Alex Jones, who he knows Alex Jones is one of literally the craziest people on the entire planet. But this normalization of insanity, that is a part of fascism. That is just, it's an underlying part of it. You shouldn't be able to have faith in anything. Everything is up for grabs, and that's what they're doing here, Viviana.
Yeah, yes, a journalist.
Yes, we know that. We know that for a fact. He was stopping crimes. I mean, he told people to go there and riot, but he was stopping crimes.
A far
he
better
literally
guide.
lost multiple court cases, like in the last week.
A far better guide to reality. This is the guy that's like, they're putting baby fetuses as toppings on pizzas. This is the far better guide to reality.
Sloppy Joes are babies. Every Sloppy Joe has 3 babies.
They're trying to kill us from space. And they're just, I don't know. The fact that he said
what he's doing, he knows what he's doing.
We're not running interference, even though it appears as we are, because we are. We did a lot of research to try to back up the fact that we're saying that he's a journalist, even though he's not. And neither am I. Okay.
Hold on, in the chat, people are already starting to they're turning the frogs gay. Okay, so we're gonna read a few of the things that this great guide to reality has done. But first, I wanna do a dramatic reenactment, because we don't have the video ready, of my favorite Alex Jones thing. This is literally what he said, and I guarantee I will be less unhinged than him. I'm a pioneer, I'm an explorer, I'm a human, and I'm coming. I'm animated, I'm alive, my heart's big, it's got hot blood, going through it fast. I like to fight too. I like to eat. I like to have children. I'm here. I've got a life force. This is a human. This is what we look like. This is what we act like. That it's not done, by the way. I'm done, but it's not done. I've got the fire of human liberty. I'm setting fires. He's setting fires everywhere. He's not a crime fighter. He's setting fires everywhere. He admitted it on his show. The screenshot of him that's looking at me right now is actually really scary.
This is
anyway.
We need to see it.
He's a great guide to reality. Hot blood in my veins.
Far better guide to, there he is. There's a vacancy in those eyes. There's something crazy back there. He's always looking past everything. Like maybe he sees the future. Maybe he sees a reality that's not here.
He's got acute pork poisoning, I think, and it ate his brain.
How did he
enough
fight
parasites? I think
crimes? How was Tucker saying he fought crimes?
If you want to know, you can watch his documentary series. That's what you can do.
I don't know about
but
that.
I want to be a guide to reality. And so I'm going to let people know some of the things that this great journalist has said. In a 2013 broadcast, Jones warned that, of course, there's weather weapon stuff going on. We had floods in Texas 15 years ago, killed 30-something people in one night. Turned out it was the Air Force.
I told you, they're trying to kill us from space. That's his favorite.
They are, or at least from the air. Could you cite a source on the Air Force did a weather weapon?
I think it was the Air Force.
I think it was probably. The reason there are so many gay people now is because it's a chemical warfare operation. And I have the government documents where they said they're going to encourage homosexuality with chemicals so that people don't have children. That was 2010. He said, everyone's so scared of Mueller, they'd let Mueller rape kids in front of people, which he did. Later in the broadcast, he said, the word is he doesn't have sex with kids, he just controls it all. Can you imagine being a monster like that? That's a demon I will take down or die trying. So that's it.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna happen.
He talks about demons. I love it.
Yeah.
Demons.
Walk out in the square. There's demons with hot fire in his veins. We're gonna walk out in the square politically. That this is a guy who's been sued a lot. That he throws out that politically. We're gonna walk out high noon politically, and he's gonna find out whether he makes the move, man. Makes the move first, and then it's gonna happen. It's not a joke. It's not a game. It's the real world politically. You're gonna get it, or you're gonna die trying, bitch. Politically, you can make any threat you want in the world as long as politically. He claimed that, and I was gonna say, oh wait, which shooting did he say was a complete fake? Oh, that was actually Sandy Hook, but also all of them are made up. He said that John Kerry has an energy beam in Antarctica that he uses to split and combine hurricanes, and that's crazy enough that I think Marjorie Greene would roll her eyes at that.
Don, he's a far better guide to reality.
I don't know where I am. I need a guide. I'm just floating in the ether.
If only John Kerry had a laser beam to guide me. This is out of, I mean, Tucker Carlson has said some outrageous stuff, but this is like his ratings must be dropping, and he's really trying to get these Alex Jones fans, these InfoWar fans on Fox. Wow.
My producer says, can you prove he doesn't have the beam? Well, I'm not the best journalist in the country, I guess. By the way, I read you all those some of those graphics. I love this little detail. That was from an old CNBC article from Tucker Higgins, the other Tucker. I like that.
The other Tucker.
Anyway, Jones also said, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, drinking sodium fluoridated water. All the scientific studies show my IQ has been reduced by at least 20 points. I'll give him that one. I'll give him that. Thank God. I think the sodium fluoridated water did it.
Well, if you drink salt water, it's probably not good for you, but sodium fluoridated.
Probably, that's true. No, he's just Tucker Carlson. Like, there's no,
it's clearly for views.
They fired Glenn Beck. There's nothing left anymore. You can do and say anything you want.
Absolutely.
Tucker Carlson could literally just yell the N-word for a solid hour, skipping his breaks because he doesn't have any advertisers anyway. And are you sure that he would be fired?
No, and in fact, I think we might expect to see Alex Jones on Fox soon if this is where the direction it's going.
Why not? Why not? Honestly, at this point,
I can't wait. It's gonna be
hot blood. Anyway,
John, you're so good.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna lose it politically. I'm gonna lose it politically.
Politically.
Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. That was oddly fun. The next story is not going to be. So I'm gonna read a couple of your comments to provide a little bit of a buffer. And I will remind you, if you haven't yet loaded up Twitter and gone to my Twitter, twitter.com/John Iadarola, and retweeted my 2 tweets that have #PitMad in it, that would be great. Thank you. Anyway, if you want me to not inevitably end up on the same arc as Alex Jones, I need this. Anyway, I'm a man. Okay, so Franklin Sharpslicer sent in a super chat saying, I think this is a poem. Maybe it can be attested that Omar's threat can be arrested. Meanwhile, fake journalists admire each other's facts is akin to 2 dogs sniffing each other's assets. We need laws to govern men's bods. Viv rocks.
Oh.
Very nice of you.
Thanks.
See, Franklin also said, I know this sounds strange, but mandatory male sterilization laws, the conversation would change. It certainly would,
They've discussed it. They've discussed it. They talked about doing it to prisoners.
Sure. I mean, historically, they've definitely done that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Not that Karen Dragon says, especially when medical bills start at the first OB visit. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, they don't. For that. They're not going to help you. They're not going to help you.
Kavanaugh says you have to pick.
Yeah. Well, they pick. Tree Frog says, in regard to Carlson and Jones, which reality in the multiverse are they competently reporting on? It's not this one. No. I don't know. Maybe we're in the multiverse of madness. Stay tuned for that movie next year. Anyway, Captain Cornball subscribed for 15 months on Twitch. Thank you, Captain Cornball. DC Darling hit 8 months. Thank you. Says Viviana's awesome. That is all.
Yay,
go girl.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Stefan says, I needed my husband's permission for permanent birth control. I couldn't get it because even with insurance, it was going to cost $7,000. All he needed was a vasectomy, was an appointment, and his insurance would cover all but $100. It's definitely about controlling women's bodies. Yeah, there's huge inequities there and the cost and access and all that. Quizzy Kadash hit 12 months on Twitter. Thank you. Dented Head Ed hit 7 months, says 7 months, and Viviana. That's a twofer.
Oh.
Beachishari hit 8 months. Thank you. Shunka Bacon hit 5. I love that name. Bapple 12 subscribed for the first time. Thank you. Soccer Dragon hit 2 months. Says John is my favorite TYT host. Thank you. I'm in my top 5. Thanks for breaking down the news in a fun. Thank you. Thanks for breaking down the news in a fun and honest way for us every week, Dragon Daddy. Thank you. And Brandy Lou too hit 15 months. Thank you, Brandy Lou. I feel like you've been around longer than that. Okay. John, please give us a rock, flag, and eagle with that energy. I don't know what you mean, but thank you. I'll work on it for next time. Okay, with that, we are going to go into the darkest story of the day. So let's do that. We often show difficult to watch footage on this show. In this case, especially because I know some people are super sensitive to violence against animals. I want to provide a huge warning for you that the video we're about to show you is of a cop brutalizing a dog. It was caught on a Ring camera. And we want to talk to you a little bit about this. So here, unfortunately, is that footage. So that really cool guy, that hero, that public servant there that tried to kick a dog to death. By the way, the one thing missing from the video because of his swearing, it had to be bleeped out, was him yelling at a dog, "I'll kick your effing A, you stupid effing dog." He was doing it at the time, and dogs can't speak. So it seems kind of needless for him to like boast about how he was going to kill this dog with his foot. But anyway, that footage was posted by Haley Ritchie, the homeowner of the home. It says, yesterday evening while my family and I were at work, someone broke into my home. My dogs ran the intruder off. This was the response shortly after a neighbor called. My home needed help and all it received was hurt, #animal cruelty. And said later on, I shared for awareness. I have no hate, but all pain for what occurred. I can't wrap my head around how easy it was to approach my dogs the way they were. I have no hate, but pain for the individual. How are others, not just pets, being treated in our community? Well, probably similarly, because I think the same sorts of cops that could run up on a dog and do that probably doesn't feel all that bad about what they do to humans either, Viviana, but what do you think?
Oh, John, it's just horrible to watch. And you know that they treat humans the same and worse. We're lucky he didn't shoot the dog, I guess. Is the dog okay? I don't even know. The poor dog's yelps and cries. And how sad. This dog was protecting its house. It wasn't. It's just horrific.
Yeah, now look, they are going to try. So the cops initially put out a statement saying many of us have our own animals and would no more want to see them hurt than our own children. So they're like taking it super seriously, whatever. But then they try to say that the cop was responding to the area not because of a robbery like the homeowner says, but because dogs were running around and potentially attacking people. So they released body cam footage, and the body cam footage does show dogs potentially running around. I want to show you this body cam footage because they released it because they believe it proves their point that what the cop did was apparently fine and necessary. So we're going to show you this footage, and I want you to decide if the context we just added makes what he did and said any more reasonable.
Immediately no.
You want bite? You want bite?
So he's walking around, there are dogs, and he runs up on a dog and starts trying to kick it as hard and as fast as he can while shouting that he'll kick the dog's effing A. Okay, if you're the Terre Haute Police Department, as they are, and you believe that that makes everything better, okay, we'll see how that goes for you. I personally don't think that makes it much better at all. What do you think?
There was a case where a cop killed a dog, shot a dog, and nothing happened to them, I mean, they're killing humans and nothing's happening to them. So, I mean, this is the lack of empathy, the lack of care and concern is really, plus your job is not to handle dogs, call animal control. You see loose dogs, call animal control. They come and catch the dog, they take them to the shelter and hopefully their owners come and collect them. If there was such an issue that you couldn't get to the door because there was a dog there, and obviously it was a small dog because he's not doing that to a Rottweiler, you better believe it. That was going to be some small little guy, probably like 30 pounds or something, getting worked by this guy's big old boot. It's just horrible.
Why not? Yeah, why not call animal control? I have a feeling they could probably, first of all, they know how to deal with it. And presumably they would do it not by trying to kill the dog.
And the dog wasn't attacking him. It seemed like he was cornering the dog on the dog's porch.
And apparently was at his, from what the homeowner is saying. And again, with these sorts of stories, immediately we have to go by what these different groups are saying. We don't know for sure, but the homeowner is saying that was my dog in front of my house, and a cop ran up and began beating the dog. Maybe we'll find out. We'll see if the police department ends up.
You know what? Dogs get let out and they get loose and they run around sometimes, and that doesn't mean you just go and kick them. And in fact, there are laws against animal abuse, and that's exactly what that was. And in fact, before there were child abuse laws, there were animal abuse laws that were actually used in place to protect children, because that was the first laws that we had. So these laws have been enacted for a long time. You can't abuse animals. You can't dismember animals. You can't. This is what this guy's doing. He could have killed this dog. We don't even know if this dog's okay.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, as of at least right now, the updates don't have any information about whether the dogs survived that attack or what condition it would be in. I would imagine rough condition. You can't do that to dogs and then they just bounce back. That's not how that works.
There was a lot of venom he had. He was very angry, that man. That guy's dangerous. I don't think all cops are
like this.
Yeah, we do. We find people who are angry, control freak, psychopath, narcissists, and we give them guns and badges. And I think we need to figure out, how do we start bringing people in for law enforcement? Because I think the police situation we have now is not working. They are killing people. They are hurting people. They are biased. We need to figure out another method, and this isn't it. This is just another example of we are really attracting the wrong people to that position.
Yeah, and by the way, not everyone is like that in the police. We shouldn't have to say that, but we'll say it again. But if you are not, it is on you to stand up against those who are.
Yeah, there was a guy behind him.
It should bother you. Exactly. And we were going to go into this next story about this individual in a wheelchair being shot multiple times. There was another cop there, didn't react at all, as if anything wrong had happened. If you're a cop, it should bother you so much that people like this wear the uniform and make you look like a crazy psychopath by the affiliation with them. And yet most of these cops don't seem to have a problem with it.
They killed that man.
Thankfully, that guy has been fired. Do you generally just lose your job when you murder someone? That's not usually what happens.
The victim is still dead.
Exactly. Okay, unfortunately, we are out of time. We're not going to get to that full story, but Viviana, as always, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
It was a real sad story to end on, John, but thank you so much. I appreciate your insight and everything that you guys do here at TThe and the Damage Report. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
We really should have ended on the Alex Jones story. But first of all, wait, you said that you had something you wanted to promote.
No. No.
Oh, do you not? Okay. Well, where can people watch your work?
You can check me out on Twitter and on Instagram, Viviana Vigil _ on Instagram, but you'll find me. And you can check out my show Contextualize This, which is on hiatus right now, but we'll be gearing up again at the beginning of the year.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm very glad to hear that. Well, thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks, John.
For those of you at home, Indisputable is coming up in just a few minutes. Nina Turner herself is going to be joining Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Albert Eisenberg is going to be on for debate as well. So don't go anywhere unless you're watching on YouTube, in which case go to youtube.com/indisputable TYT. Also, if you wanted to go to my Twitter account and retweet those tweets with Pitmat in them, but not like them, that would be great. Would love for this opportunity to bear some sort of fruit. But anyway, thank you everybody for watching. I do want to remind you too, as always, tomorrow we're going to be throwing away our garbage people of the week. I have a bit of an inkling who my garbage person is going to be, but you get a chance to choose one as well. So if you go to the community tab of our YouTube channel and scroll down a bit, you'll see our poll. You can vote and help us choose who's going to end up in the trash tomorrow with Brett Ehrlich. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.